Today we're going to talk about 3 games that I, as a Christian, endorse everyone to play, especially instead of Cult of the Lamb. Hello, I'm Noah Price, your Christian gamer. I love RPGs and JRPGs, and today we're going to talk about their cousin, rougelikes. Rougelikes is an amazing genre that plays off the idea of, hey, you like RPGs and that progression system? Well, what if we shorten it down and made it where this game is really replayable with either randomization or constantly things just changing per game? I've been meaning to make this video for a while, mostly because I keep getting comments related to my Cult of the Lamb video that I made. I've made 2 already covering this game, and I keep on getting comments about like, hey, okay, what games should we play instead of Cult of the Lamb? Cult of the Lamb is a game where you are a lamb literally building a cult, and it's a roguelike that has some good mechanics, but I personally don't really care to play because of the satanic themes. Now, I know many other Christians who actually have played this game and enjoy it and don't have a problem playing with it, and I am not here to yell at them or have problems with them, but as me, someone like this, like, okay, if you do say no, don't play the game, or you don't want to play the game, what game should you play instead if you do want this type of style? And again, I've been meaning to make this video because I keep getting comments based on this, so here I am after my vacation. I'm here to finally bring this video. So today we are going to talk about 3 games that I think are pretty good replacements, and they're games that I would probably just suggest them to any Christians, even non-Christians. I would be like, hey, you should play this game. This is a game I like, I play, and so let's go talk about it. Game number 1 is Moonlighter. Moonlighter is a super underrated roguelike. This is a game where you have a dual genre almost of during night, you get to have the normal roguelike feeling of go through dungeons, room through room, fighting monsters, and collecting materials, so that in the daytime, you have the different genre of actually being a shopkeeper. It's a very fun mixed genre. This is why this game is number 1 on the list, because it's very similar to Cult of the Lamb with this dual kind of genre. Cult of the Lamb has it where during the day you get to, or at their home base, you get to deal with your cultists and help with that side before you go into the dungeons for materials and etc. So that type of split genre is similar here. But why should you personally play this game, Moonlighter? I would say this game's really great at being a relaxful roguelike. A lot of times roguelikes can be really tense and like have high stakes of like, ooh, am I gonna lose or not? But with Moonlighter, it just feels really relaxful. And a lot of that has to do with the shop selling mechanic of just during the day, be like, set my prices, let's see what we got, and let's sell our wares. And it just has that atmosphere of relaxfulness, including the music and everything. And honestly, the other reason why you should play this game is because of the unique split of having a shop simulator with a roguelike. I think it's very fun and interesting. And this is coming from someone who doesn't like a lot of simulators, doesn't like shop simulators much either. Which, funny enough, is actually what I think I personally gained from playing Moonlighter. I gained appreciation for shop simulators through playing this game. The idea of actually selling your prices, picking your prices, and what you got to sell and how frequency, like a lot of that I actually enjoyed in this game, and it gave me more appreciation for that type of gameplay style. And this split genre really also broadened my horizons with roguelikes. I think I gained an appreciation of like, ooh, it doesn't have to be just in general a roguelike is you are going through dungeons. That's what a roguelike is. Roguelikes can be more. It's not limited to just that. With all that said, though, it's not perfect. Honestly, the problem with Moonlighter, and I think it adds to why this game's probably not as mainstream as other roguelikes. Probably one, the combat. The combat does feel a little bit stiff compared to other roguelike genres. A lot of action roguelikes tend to have a smooth gameplay and it's really fast paced, and Moonlighter feels like you have to play a little bit more slow and committed with your actions. If you spend the time, you will get used to this, and so it's not a deal breaker, I don't think, but it is something there that the combat is a little bit more stiff and strict. Now, that also feeds into the other part where honestly the progression system of this game is pretty slow. Again, doesn't help, especially with the shop simulator. You have a progression step of upgrading your shop, getting more stuff available, just getting more stuff available to use to sell more items or even to get more items while dungeoning. This is a very slow progress, and for some, maybe too slow. Game number 2 is Hades. Hades is a classic game that is not underrated as a roguelike. But why I chose this game, besides just being a classic roguelike, is how is it similar to Cult of Lamb? Well, it's similar in the dungeons. The gameplay side of going from one room to the next is very similar from Hades to Cult of Lamb. That was one thing that I noticed right off the bat while playing Cult of Lamb. But why should you play this game? Well, it's because this game's good. It has a great combat, it's fast paced, and the reward system is very interesting and unique. And probably the biggest thing that I like a lot about this game, and I know others do too, is the storytelling in this game. Roguelikes aren't normally known for their storytelling. Usually there's not much storytelling. It's very, very brief. It's like, oh, you might get a little prelude at the beginning, and then you might get a little thing if you win your run, and that's it. Hades is not that. Hades is an interesting game that almost every time you get through a run, there's something that you could learn through a character or even the main plot. And it actually requires you to go through several runs to actually unlock more story, and it's really good incentive, and I think it's well paced from the possible grind of just doing endless cycles of runs with no story. So honestly, what I gained from playing Hades is, one, I think I've gotten better at playing action games through it, just being on top of your toes. In Hades, you can't play it and just sit on your foot. You have to always be moving practically to just survive. But also, I grew a more appreciation for, I guess, Greek storytelling. The story is in the setting of a Greek mythology, and so you have all of these sorts of iconic things, and for somebody who knows that, it's awesome to get to see how that's used in a storytelling manner. And for somebody who doesn't know it as much, it doesn't distance people. I don't think I ever felt alienated for not knowing a thing. It just was cool. It's like, oh, that's what that is? Cool. But it's definitely there where if you already know, it just adds to the impact so much more. Now, there's two red flags I saw while playing Hades. Probably not surprising because I'm a Christian. One of them is Greek mythology. You know, it's not a Christian thing. It's a secular religion, and it's, while to many people see Greek mythology and they're like, oh yeah, that's a myth. That's not real, obviously. But for some people, at one point in time, it was a real thing. So do have to keep that into some consideration. But with it and getting to see this mindset of like what these different values are coming from because of it's a Greek mythology, probably the other problem I had is honestly the character designs, and specifically the portraits. A lot of them are a little bit more on the lewd side, but not quite. All of them are usually good. The only one that I honestly had like the biggest problem with was Aphrodite. Like, she's just naked. Like, I get it, she's supposed to be the love, but that's like, when you compare her to all the other gods, like, it doesn't make sense that she would just be naked. That's kind of my problem. It's like, that's a red flag just to watch out. Like, I avoid her boons literally because of that. Still a great game, still suggested to anyone, but that is definitely a red flag that you should be aware of. The final game is probably one of my favorite games out there, probably one of my favorite roguelikes in general, and that's Enter the Gungeon. But Enter the Gungeon is a game that's known for, hey, everything is a gun. So there's constant gun references, and outside of that, there's constant references to other medias, and it has some charm, and I love the game. It has good, fast-paced twin-stick combat, but at the end of the day, it's a good dungeon crawler. Honestly, why you should play this game is because, well, one, it's cheap. it's always on sale, and for the content you get for how cheap it is so much. It's a great game. It has a tight combat. It doesn't feel like whenever you die that it's the game's fault. It always feels like it's on you, which is always great when a game does that. All the different references that the game has is always fun and tasteful. Like, tasteful. It doesn't feel like it's actually like taking away or ruining the fun. It feels great. And not only that, the game has its own charm with all the bullet visuals. I think it does have its own visual design and uniqueness. Honestly, and probably the biggest thing I gained from playing this game is a love for roguelikes in general. This was like the major first roguelike I really got into, and just the randomization of each run is random based on what guns you can get. The possibilities were so open and options that it made every run feel so refreshing, and with all the different characters, you have good amount of variety per run, which is great if you really want that. That's kind of the problem with Hades is you have a little bit less variety and a little bit more consistency than Enter the Gungeon, but Enter the Gungeon has so much variability. When looking at red flags though, there's really none. Technically, I guess a red flag is that it's hard. It's a really hard game. You're going to lose a lot, but that's okay. It's a roguelike. You're going to lose a lot in a roguelike in general. Probably the other red flag that I saw somewhere was on Reddit. Someone was mentioning the references. They said that there's too many references to the point that it doesn't have an identity. Maybe that's true, and maybe I'm biased, but I would argue that it's not true. There's a lot of references. There really is. But I do honestly see a sense of identity that this game has, and I love it. Let me know if you're going to be checking out any of these 3 games. Maybe they helped you out, maybe they're games you didn't know about, or maybe you are looking for a game to replace Cult of the Lamb. I hope this helps a lot. Let me know down below if you are going to check them out. And who knows, maybe this will be some kind of series that we do more often. If there's more games you wanted me to see if it's cool for Christian to play, let me know. All right. Bye, guys. Jesus loves you. Shalom.